The problem with aliens is they're so difficult to find. You can't just buy an extraterrestrial at a pet store or hook up with a Martian on a dating app. Best you can do is just sort of wander around and hope you get abducted. I've spent years alone in the woods, completely naked, screaming at the sky. I've also spent some time trying to get abducted by aliens. But what if they were commonplace? What if they constantly fell from the sky, like rain or bees? I'll probably never meet an alien. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Tonight's story.
At the edge of a fragile post-apocalyptic hellscape, two very different cultures are about to collide. One is a broken and diseased human being from planet Earth. The other is not. Two unique living specimens encountering each other for the very first time. One loomed over the other, asking the all-important question. What occurred as a result of the falling corpses? And so, to the best of her recollection, she recalled the strange history of the fall of the Mana Men. It began long before she was born, over a half-century back. That's when they first started falling. No one knew when or where the first body landed. The incidents were covered up back in the early days. Black cars full of secret agents would show up, haul something away, and then make certain anyone who saw it wouldn't go public with the story. But the number of cadavers falling from the sky increased. Rumors began to spread. They were enthusiastically discussed by people that no one took seriously. The first time they made the major news outlets was when one washed up on a beach in Barcelona. Photos and videos of the animal went viral. They assumed it to be some unknown sea creature. Its purple flesh was smooth like a whale, yet it had no fins. There were two spindly arms, rigid like tree branches, and at the bottom, dozens of tiny legs like a field of worms. At the other end was a narrow head with a single yellow eyeball at its center. Below that were two floppy protuberances that covered its mouth. The hideous face was shown to the world through the Barcelona footage. Beachgoers grabbed the alien's white hair and held its head up for the cameras like a terrorist identifying a hostage. Ultimately, the Spanish government took it away, and many assumed it would never be seen again. 2 days later, another one dropped, this time on land, striking an outdoor cafe in Norway. The carcass smashed an unoccupied table. There were over 30 witnesses. A waitress was bruised by a flying table leg. Once again, the news spread. The creature was identical to the one that washed ashore in Spain. By the end of the week, more incidents occurred. One dead alien landed in a busy road in India, causing a crash that injured 80 people. A farmer in Canada discovered one in his field, as did another farmer in Brazil. The first reported death occurred that weekend in a suburb of Topeka, Kansas. The blobby beast fell from the clouds during a local harvest parade. It crushed a Boy Scout, killing him instantly. Everyone rushed to his aid, but the child's condition was evident by the spread of the impact crater. As before, the governments would swoop in and cart everything away. Unlike before, the aliens were now public knowledge. The drops were increasing in frequency. In a few months, they went from a ridiculous rumor to a global epidemic. They always fell one at a time, never in groups. But cumulatively, there were hundreds of these strange corpses falling from the sky every single day, all around the world, over land and sea. They washed up on shorelines. They destroyed rooftops. They caused fatal accidents. People began to panic. Some thought it might be some kind of gruesome alien invasion, like the old Mongolian tactic of catapulting the dead bodies of festering plague victims into enemy cities as an ancient form of biological warfare. Because of these and other fears, owning an extraterrestrial became illegal. If you discovered one, you were obligated to immediately report it to a designated hotline. But the curiosity over these creatures was overwhelming. Not everyone reported every alien that fell.
This led to grim amateur experiments conducted in basements and garages with rusty old tools.
That's how humanity first learned about them. They learned that these beasts were almost indestructible. The bodies were malleable, although their purple flesh was extremely difficult to penetrate. A simple knife couldn't cut through their rubbery hide. However, a chainsaw could. Once inside, most of their fatty mass was soft meat. Thin veins spread throughout like a network of tunnels in an ant colony. They carried a watery liquid with a vibrant blue color that was assumed to be blood. After slicing through a few feet of this mantle, the inner workings were found at its core, a collection of multicolored organs tightly packed into the egg yolk center. They had very few bones, and they weren't all connected. Their arms were almost all bone. They had an oblong skull that contained only one tooth on their jaw. The white hairs atop the pate were so strong they couldn't be cut with scissors and required pliers to pull them from the scalp. Their single eye was hard and yellow, a bit larger than a baseball. It was like a glass sphere filled with a buttery goo. This fluid was corrosive and could melt through metal. Under their eye were two snouts that dangled over the mouth. Turned out that these sacs produced a clear jelly, and when touched against living skin, this gel caused instant numbness. None of these creatures displayed signs of injuries. No cause of death ever seemed apparent. Even their post-mortem impacts rarely cut or broke them. Every bone was as strong as steel. Even stranger, the bodies never rotted. The outsides and insides were equally immortal in death. Even when the meaty flesh was left out in the sun, it remained as fresh as it was when it had been eviscerated. News of these discoveries spread, and government agencies had long since run their own experiments and came to the same conclusions. But it was the amateur scientists and their anonymous uploads from which people first learned the creature's properties. Videos were posted of white hair ropes which could tow multiple trucks. Others used the bones as a shield to deflect fire. It wasn't long before the first people started eating the meat. it turned out to be edible, if cooked properly. Descriptions varied as the taste was so unique to the human palate. Some said it was sweet and sour and salty and savory. Some loved it, some didn't. No ill effects were ever reported. In fact, no new diseases ever resulted from their presence on Earth. Fears of a space plague abated. Black market alien sales became commonplace. Sometimes the whole body was peddled, but usually just pieces were offered up, like a bone, or an eyeball, or a pound of flesh. Some were sold on the darkest regions of the internet. Others were sold at elite clandestine auctions. Still others were sold out of the back of vans. The deceased visitors garnered nicknames, like belly floppers or sky potatoes. Many called them manna from heaven. That's how they came to be known as the Manna Men. Why the Manna Men fell from heaven was still a mystery. Satellites searched the skies. The lifeless forms were observed appearing out of nowhere. They didn't come from a ship or a portal or even a cloud. They just materialized out of thin air. Usually they came into being somewhere in the stratosphere. This became a new flight hazard. The first airplane crash attributed to the Manna Men occurred over Australia. The creature lopped off most of the left wing. There were no survivors. These accidents were often unavoidable. Early warning systems were implemented, which helped. Their chaotic births were inconvenient, but their value was unmistakable. Citizens around the world lobbied for the legalization of Manna Men. Japan became the first country to allow their use in commerce. The boost to their economy was difficult to ignore. China followed suit. Then all of Europe was trading in Manna Men wares. Finally, they became a global business. People made a living collecting them. Licensed wranglers utilizing the early warning systems would drive out to the drop points and throw them into the back of their trucks. Others trawled the seas, learning which regions the floating corpses congregated into swirling whirlpools. The meat, known as manna meat, became a delicacy. It was high in protein but seemingly low in calories. Each alien contained 5 times the amount of usable meat as a single cow, all without having to take a life. Their sudden existence became an environmental godsend. With more people eating manna meat, less people were eating beef. Methane emissions plummeted. Vast acres of grazing land went unused, and less traditional meat meant less refrigerators, as manna meat didn't require refrigeration. Specialty restaurants started popping up, and then fast food chains. The glass eyeballs turned out to be remarkable lenses that revealed unknown fields of energy. The corrosive yellow liquid from within their eyes could render most forms of garbage into a fine powder. Their hair was woven into ropes and flexible, fireproof and bulletproof clothing that never tore. Their snouts produced a powerful numbing agent. Just smearing it on someone's skin was enough of a local anesthetic to painlessly perform surgery. The extraterrestrials' blue blood contained an enzyme which led to a pill that effectively cured allergies. Their hides were made into impenetrable rubber tires, and their bones were used in lightweight experimental vehicles, including one that allowed astronauts to closely orbit the sun. Year after year, new uses were found for the ever-falling bodies of the Manna Men. There were drinks, wrinkle creams, plastics, dyes, medications, all containing otherworldly ingredients. Buildings were made from them, not only on Earth but also on the Moon, Mars, and Venus. Books, movies, and television shows were written about the beings. Everyone speculated on where they came from, what they were like when they were alive, why their corpses always fell from the sky. Some thought they were a government experiment gone awry. Others believed they were an undiscovered sea creature sucked up into hurricanes.
And a few believed God was casting demons out of heaven.
Most believed them to be from another planet. The beast's DNA was drastically different from anything on Earth. Genetic research made huge advances just by having something unique to compare against. Pundits preferred to debate what to do now that the alien carcasses were so ubiquitous. They either championed the potential or warned against further use. Everybody's lives were impacted by the Man-O-Men. The global economy was soaring, the environment was improving, science was taking unprecedented leaps, even wars were abated as everyone's resources were falling from the sky with total equity. It was a new golden age, the age of mana. 50 years had passed since the first known Man-O-Men washed ashore in Barcelona. A week-long celebration was planned, elaborate virtual fireworks, a multi-continent robot opera, and an attempt to temporarily turn the moon purple. The centerpiece of the festivities was to be the formal opening of Mana-Land. This brand new North Atlantic island continent was largely built from Man-O-Men byproducts and discoveries. It was almost twice the size of nearby Iceland. 20 million people from around the world moved to Mana-Land. They were already producing free renewable energy and spreading it to neighboring countries. The island was full of awe-inspiring architecture and sculptures. Holographic Man-O-Men walked around and happily posed with tourists. A museum and research facility was built on the southern coast. It was over 1,000 feet tall and shaped like a Man-O-Man. Its eye was made from the real eye lenses and acted as a powerful telescope that searched the galaxy for a planet full of familiar aliens. The building had a long and boring name, but quickly came to be known as the Minstitute. The festivities were due to begin Monday morning. The leaders of 12 other countries had arrived, plus royalty, movie stars, musicians, business moguls, and 30 million excited tourists. Most of these people were still sleeping in their beds when the apocalypse began. Monday morning, 4:58 a.m., Mana Mean Time. That was the precise moment, the moment that came to be known as the Manishing. In the blink of an eye, every single Man-O-Man in the world simultaneously disappeared. Every single one, everywhere. Every rendering plant and storage facility was suddenly empty. And not just the bodies. Every Mana-Meat steak was gone. Every fatty morsel, even the meat in people's stomachs, gone. Every rope, every cream, every dye. The tires were erased from vehicles. Cars careened out of control, and streets became rivers of blood. Buildings and bridges collapsed. Every trace of every alien was gone. They disappeared at the same time around the world and beyond. Space stations and space shuttles crashed to Earth. The structures of the colonies on the Moon and Mars and Venus disintegrated, crushing or asphyxiating the astronauts within. The remains of the Minstitute imploded. Every building in Manaland fell. Clouds of smoke enveloped the island. The ground shook. Terrified presidents and tourists ran for their lives. Holographic Manamen were dimming and pixelating as they slowly died. They chased after their screaming victims, assuming they were attempting an amusing photo op. By the time the last of the country had sunk beneath the waves, 50 million people were dead. Billions more had died around the world. Manamen didn't fall from the sky anymore. Unemployment doubled overnight and rose exponentially. There was hoarding, looting, and rioting. Medicines vanished and diseases spread. Some people's immunity to allergies were gone too. Now inhaling pollen or petting a dog was potentially deadly. Important world leaders had died, and their terrified replacements made terrible decisions. Countries blamed each other, or accused each other of somehow still having Manamen. Wars broke out, but with all the chaos, enlisting soldiers proved difficult. Most of the fighting was done through missile launches. Major cities were reduced to rubble. Within 5 years of the disappearance of the Manamen, every single human being was dead. The last survivor was a woman named Trin Vicinity. Trin was a traveling sky acrobat. She was part of a show in which she and 49 other men and women dressed like sexy purple aliens and flew around in meticulously choreographed maneuvers. They were set to perform Wednesday in Philadelphia. Trin had arrived Saturday and was booked into her hotel. Sunday night she practiced at the park where she was due to perform. She fretted about her equipment and kept making adjustments to her anti-gravity corset. 2 minutes before midnight, she was doing a complicated backwards triple loop when the alien fibers in her flying clothing suddenly disintegrated. With no understanding of what had occurred, Trin plummeted 40 feet to the ground. There was a net set up to protect against injury, but most of it disappeared as well. Both of her legs were broken. She lay crumpled in the grass for hours as most emergency vehicles didn't have any tires. Trin spent the subsequent 5 years in a hospital. It was a hospital when she arrived, but then it became a refugee camp. Then it became a concentration camp. Then it became a fortress for a cannibalistic doomsday cult. When things got bad, she found a home in a mop closet down a forgotten hallway. Occasionally, she would roll out in her wheelchair to steal food, anything from cookies to human flesh. She outlived everyone in the building. She didn't know it, but she had outlived everyone in the entire world. Her legs never properly mended and became permanently disfigured. She also somehow contracted the bubonic plague. But she was alive. When she depleted the resources on one floor, she threw her wheelchair down the stairs and crawled after it to raid the next floor. The lower she went, the less there was to eat and drink. After weeks of searching the ground floor, she gave up. The task was made all the harder because Trin's wheelchair had finally fallen to pieces. She kept gazing outside. The windows were shattered. Dark clouds filled an orange sky. A black fog crept at the edges of the building. Trin hadn't left the hospital since she arrived, about 5 years ago. She felt it was time. One arm after another, she dragged herself through the entrance where the doors used to stand. There was garbage and wreckage everywhere. Cars were shoved through walls. She didn't see any people, just a few skulls and bones.
Hello? I'm all alone. What if I'm the last person in the entire world? I guess this is...
Excuse me. You there. You appear to be moving. You seem alive. Does that mean you're alive? Are you capable of speech as well? I have questions.
Trin Vicinity was shocked. She didn't expect to see another living person, much less a living alien. No one on Earth had ever met a Man-a-Man. Ever. But now, here it was. Large as life and twice as purple. She crawled into the middle of the street to inspect the creature and discern if it was a hallucination. It loomed over her, focusing its saffron eyeball on this crippled animal.
What is your name?
Trin.
Trin. What an odd name. My name is Swell Busty Finicliff.
Right. Okay. Hello?
I have questions. Did you see any others like myself? But perhaps they were dead.
Are you kidding? Yes. They fell from the sky all over the world. Every single day for decades. There were millions of them.
Oh, crumbs. We were worried you might have noticed. I hope you're not crucifix. Is that the correct term? Cross. I hope you aren't angry.
Angry? Angry?
That's why I'm here. I came to see if anyone noticed. But according to my scans, you're the only one of your species. Must be nice to have a whole planet to yourself.
Wait, what?
Did the corpses do any damage? They couldn't have done much. This whole place looks terrible. You should clean up after yourself.
What the hell is wrong with you? This is not how the planet is supposed to look. All of this happened after all the views started falling.
Oh, I see. I may be vexed about that. Can you explain to me what happened? What occurred as a result of the falling corpses?
And so, to the best of her recollection, she recalled the strange history of the fall of the Man-a-Men.
Oh, expectorate. Well, that was disgusting and shocking. Almost incomprehensible.
And we never even found out why. We never learned why they were all falling.
Oh, well, that was us, I'm afraid. We're from a nearby dimension. We were having a lot of trouble disposing of our dead. We're very resilient, very difficult to get rid of. The traditional method was incineration, but then we discovered that it was damaging our atmosphere.
So, you sent them here. Why would you send them here?
Well, there was this company that invented a portal to another dimension. One-way access. Things go in and nothing comes out. They promised that our dead were going somewhere uninhabited. Turns out they were lying about that. They had no idea where they were going, and it was impossible to check at the time. But as soon as we found out the company was lying, and sending the bodies to a habitable world, we punished them.
You did?
Well, we fined them. Heavily fined them.
You find them? That's it? You just find them?
No, not just that. We also reversed it. We were worried you'd be angry about the whole thing. Maybe even attack us out of revenge. So we immediately withdrew them, and then hoped you didn't notice. Once we devised the method, we recalled every corpse back to our planet, and had them incinerated.
But that's what caused the apocalypse!
I know. It ruined our atmosphere, just like our scientists predicted. It was a disaster.
I mean here, this apocalypse! We were using the bodies, we were eating them, we were making clothes and shelters out of them.
Yes, you said. And as I said, it was disgusting. Dead bodies falling from the sky and you immediately start eating them. What are you, wild animals? Did you think your local god was feeding you? I've never heard anything so revolting. My 6 parents died. Did you eat all of them?
Oh God, I'm sorry. We didn't know. They just kept falling. There were so many we had to do something with them all.
So you ate us? Like savages? No wonder your civilization collapsed.
Our civilization didn't collapse until the bodies disappeared.
Honestly, one little resource disappears and your whole ecosystem crumbles. You deserve your apocalypse.
Oh yeah, maybe you're right. I guess we...
Foolish humans in your ways.
No, wait, hold on. You can't just accuse us of putting all our eggs in one basket. There'd be chaos if you suddenly took away any commonly used variable, if all the steel disappeared overnight, or all the hydrogen or a continent. You're the ones who shouldn't have made such drastic decisions without testing and considering the consequences.
Who? Us? We're not the ones that base our entire economy on eating dead people. Your whole world is looking quite consequential now.
Because of you! All we did was adapt. We were confronted with a new problem, and we researched and learned and used it to make our world a better place. But when you were confronted with a new problem, you trusted one company without any regulation or verification. And as soon as you discovered they were wrong, you tried to abruptly cover it all up. That's why it looks so consequential around here. These are the consequences of your actions!
Perhaps you're right. See, back home, we almost never have problems of our own. We have no rivals, and we never get injured or sick. We've always had everything we needed. As a consequence, we hardly ever suffer any consequences.
That sounds fine for you. But what about how your reckless behavior impacts everyone else?
Everyone else? We don't have time for everyone else. We have problems of our own.
What problems? You just said...
I told you! Our environmental apocalypse from incinerating all the bodies we took back. It ruined our atmosphere. Our planet is uninhabitable now.
Oh, I see. What are you going to do?
Well, now we have to find a new planet. Somewhere completely uninhabited. This place isn't bad. Bit of a fixer-upper.
Excuse me?
Lots of dead natives, though, and they appear to be rotting. Ugh. Well, should be easy enough to just swap everyone around. One species for another. Let's give it a go and see what happens.
And so, for the final time, at the edge of another fragile post-apocalyptic hellscape, two very different cultures are about to collide.
Well, there you have it. Don't dump your dead bodies on other planets.
Let that be a lesson to you all.
I'd like to thank tonight's talented guest stars, Zelda Diana Black and Ezra Vervin. Zelda is a ridiculously talented voice artist who I wasted on this simple role. She does lots of amazing South Park and Simpsons characters and lots of other kinds of voices. She did a brilliant job on this story. She has a website with her demos and her links. We also have the equally exceptional Ezra Vervin as the alien. She can do lots of great voices too. I told her it needed to sound like a little girl, but it wasn't actually a little girl. This was a grown adult at work. It needed to sound mature and patronizing, like an American tourist. A difficult request, which I think she pulled off exceptionally well. She also has a website. It has her demos and her links. You can also find her on Twitter and Instagram. I also have a Twitter and Instagram for some reason. If you'd like to see artwork from these stories or updates on future stories, you can follow me and I will do those things. I will. I'll do it. I'll do it right now. Our next story is called The Mortis of the Tortoise. And it's about a tortoise who, well, you could probably figure out the rest from the title.